everybody. Oh my God, I got a sister on the Strong Inspiration channel today that she looking good. She got some nice looking glasses on so she can see, so she can write and type and research, because she is a very well respected, accomplished author, internationally known, and she just came on Strong Inspirations. Oh my God, oh, this is gonna be good. We're gonna tell you about some women who doing this thing. You know them sisters be jamming, and she gonna tell you about some sisters that be jamming. Come on, people, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. You're gonna like this video. Oh, you're gonna like it, you're gonna like it, like it. Hit the like button, hit the notifications bell, because I'm uplifting 3, 4, 5 strong videos every week. And tell somebody about Strong Inspirations. Come on, folks, you know I'm coming at you. Straight no chaser. I don't even do the talking. I let them talk. I just try to come up with some intelligent questions. Now, y'all might know I got a movie out. It's called Business in the Black, The Rise of Black Business in America. From 1800 to 1960, and I'm talking about some sisters in my movie. Now, I said book, I mean movie. It's 75 minutes long. If you don't have a DVD player, it's streaming on Amazon. And one of the sisters I talk about is a Maggie, Lena Walker. If you haven't heard of her, research her or watch it in the movie. The movie did so well and is still doing well, I decided to write a book. I'm an author too. I'm not as proficient as my guest though, because she's been doing it a long time and she wrote a lot of books. I got the one book, but it's good. And it's on Amazon also. It's called Business in the Black. It's got over 200 facts on Black history. And there's quite a few sisters that I know in this book, because sisters been jamming since, man, they've been jamming since day one. And they still jamming. They still doing that thing. And we got one now who's the vice president. Man, old man of Chevy's. But you know, I'm gonna let her tell it, right? At Strong Inspiration. So thank you, sister. Come on and introduce yourself. Let's go, let's go. Oh, let's go.
Thanks, Anthony, for that warm and enthusiastic greeting. I am Carol Boston Weatherford. I am a professor of English at Fayetteville State University and the author of 50 books, mostly books for children, young tweens, and teenagers. And I'm here to talk about a few of them today that focus on women's history. We have a lot of powerful Black women, dynamic Black women in our history, and I just want to highlight a few of them today. And
right on. I appreciate it. Now let me tell you how you get to be who you are. How you get to like writing that much? That's 50 books. That's a lot of books.
That's a good question. I started writing when I was in elementary school. In first grade, I made up my first poem. Told my mother I'd made it up. Dictated the poem to her, and she wrote it down. My dad, as luck would have it, was a high school printing teacher. And he used some of my early poems as typesetting exercises for his students. So I got to see my work in print at a very early age, before the dawn of desktop computers, and before a young Black girl could even dare to dream of becoming an author back in the 1960s. And so I did not dream of becoming an author. I was in public relations.
So you sit at the computer a lot, you researching a lot, you typing a lot. How you do it?
Way too much. I mean, because I write about historical subject matter, I do have to do quite a bit of research, and it varies from book to book and from, with the approach that I'm trying to take. So for example, I wrote a book a couple of years ago about Aretha Franklin, and of course I had to research her biography. But I had grown up with her music, so I used her music really as inspiration, and really used her song R-E-S-P-E-C-T as my inspiration, and created a riff on her life that was much like that song. So it starts off B-L-E-S-S-E-D, and it talks about how she was raised in the church, and on, and takes it all the way up to her singing "My Country 'Tis of Thee" at Barack Obama's inauguration.
Yeah.
So,
Now, you when you write about these people, does that make you a biographer? Is that the word
yes,
we would call it?
it does. Yes, it does. It makes me a biographer. You actually named one of the people. I'm going to take it as a sign. One of the people that I've been thinking about writing about for some time, Maggie Lena Walker. You mentioned her in your intro. And so I'm going to take that as a sign that I need to get busy.
Yeah.
Her.
So
Yeah.
now, do you have to? I mean, most of the people are deceased, or all of them are deceased.
Right.
Let's say, do you have to like try to
are.
research and call a family, or do you not necessarily that?
No, I don't. No, I don't call their family. If the person is alive, I may contact, or if the person is a contemporary, I may contact their family. Usually, the publisher does that. If I have a question, I may contact the family. Usually, I don't have to do that because these are public figures, and there's been so much research about them. But there was a case I wrote about Oprah also, about when she was a little girl, 6 years old, and we did send her a copy of the book, but we didn't hear back from her people.
I got you.
I guess it was okay because they didn't.
Yeah. Now, do you in doing this research, do you consider yourself a Black historian in some regards? I mean, I say Black just off the cuff, but are you a historian too?
Yeah, I do consider myself a historian. I consider myself, I'm not trained as a historian. I'm trained as a writer. So I consider myself an amateur historian, but I nevertheless do, what I think is thorough research to provide, a complete and a holistic picture of these people, make them a well-rounded character, not just some, she did this and then she did that and then she did that, because that would be boring.
Yes.
You want to know, what is it that made this person, who they are, what's inside their mind, what's their soul like, and I try to give a glimpse of that.
Oh man, that's beautiful. So now, when we were talking offline, there are, I guess, about 4 people, and you got the books behind you that we're going to discuss. Let's start out with Harriet Tubman.
Okay.
Yeah, Harriet give us Tubman. A little background about Harriet.
Yeah, Harriet Tubman was one of my sheroes when I was growing up in Maryland, because she came from Maryland's Eastern Shore, the same place my father's family comes from. So I connected with her story early on. And I wrote the book Moses, when Harriet Tubman led her people to freedom, which chronicles her spiritual quest as she was running away herself the first time, and as she grappled with whether she was going to return to lead others to freedom. And it unfolds through a series of conversations that she attested in her narrative, that she had these conversations with God, and she talked to him as friend to friend. So there are 3 voices in the book: Harriet's voice, God's voice, and the narrator's voice. And at the end, God is telling Harriet, "Well done, Moses, well done." Because
she had to be scared to do all that going back and forth, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. But she was a woman, even though she was a small woman who suffered what now would probably be diagnosed as epilepsy. She had seizures. She was, well trained in the ways of nature. Her father had taught her, how to look on the trees and figure out which side the moss was on to go north. He had taught her she knew how to read the stars. She knew how to make cures from herbs and roots. So she was, well versed in the natural world. And she had this strong belief in God, strong faith in God. And she thought that she was accompanying her on every step of that journey.
Yeah, because I think the one thing that my mind is racing when you talk about that. So she did a lot of walking, didn't she? Had to walk back and forth all in places?
She did. Of course, she had occasionally she would be in a wagon. Her bands of runaways might be hiding in the back of wagons, or they might be hiding in boats. But most of the journey, you're right, was on foot. Most of the journey was on foot.
Yeah, I got that. And then when I watched,
imagine that.
Right, and when I watched the movie, I think the one point that came out of her spiritual connection was when she went into that pond.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not sure that really happened. But I think that's fine too, for the sake of movies. I mean, you actually reached out to me because of another book I did with a movie tie-in. My book, Moses, really is, if you want a children's book that really ties in closely with the film Harriet, that is the book to get. Moses, when Harriet Tubman led her people to freedom. because it does show that Harriet, you know, had this strong faith and believed that God could really move mountains, you know, to help propel her to freedom. So, you know, although she didn't really necessarily jump off that bridge, she did a lot of heroic things, and she really did lean on the Lord as she, you know,
let me ask you this, and maybe you know this one. What was her scariest moment? Was there a moment that they had her cornered, do you think? And does anything like that come to mind?
On her first escape, I know that she had to hide in like hide in a potato hole for a whole week, because she kept hearing these patrollers, you know, bounty hunters, who were looking for her. So she hid for a whole week. And I would think that because that was her first escape and she was alone, that might have been one of the scariest moments.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know, if she was ever scared, she never admitted it. You know, she asked God to guide her and walk with her, and she truly believed that God was with her on every step of that journey.
Yeah. Did she ever marry or anything like that?
Yeah, she was married. She was married when she first ran away. She left her husband because he was a free man and he didn't want to go. And when she came back, he had remarried. And she later married a man who was younger than she, who had served in the Civil War. And she actually had to fight. She actually had to fight to get that man's pension in her old age. And she herself was a spy in the Civil War, but she didn't qualify for a pension because she was a woman. But she did fight for and get her husband's pension.
Yeah, you might. Hopefully, you're gonna laugh with me when I ask you this, and then we're gonna get off of Harriet. All her pictures, she looked kind of homely. Did Harriet ever dress up, get her hair done, and stuff like that?
There's a picture, a younger picture of her. I mean, we're used to seeing older pictures of her, but the National Museum of African American History recently acquired the only younger picture. It might be the only younger picture of her that anyone has ever seen up to this point. And she was, you know, as a younger woman, it looked like she was more concerned with her looks. But you have to remember, she was also scarred at a very early age because her master hit her in the head with a weight. And so she had a gash in the middle of her forehead. You can imagine how, you know, it must feel as a woman to have a scar on your face.
I think I remember hearing that.
Yeah, so, you know, that may have played into it. And she was also probably too busy to figure out, you know, to be concerned with what she was wearing. And
So
she was also known to dress up as a man sometimes to, you know, fool the patrollers.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, so when we go from here, we might go, let's say, to Fannie Lou Hamer, which is in the what's Fannie Lou Hamer's time frame?
Fannie Lou Hamer is in the 1960s, and we could really kind of group her and Aretha Franklin in the same time period.
All right.
Fannie Lou Hamer was a voting rights activist from Mississippi. She was mobilized or radicalized when she was 40 some years old at a rally, at a voter registration rally, and she ended up trying to register to vote. They, you know, of course, it set up barriers, tricks, so she couldn't register. She had to like do some test and analyze a part of the Mississippi Constitution. Of course, she couldn't do that. She had like a 3rd or 5th grade education. She couldn't do that. But she did study, came back past it, had to pay a poll tax. So it was one hurdle after another. Long story short, she did register to vote. She became a speaker and organizer for SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, that John Lewis and Julian Bond and Stokely Carmichael were a part of. And she eventually ran for office, and she cast her first vote for herself. She was a very outspoken woman in Mississippi and within the Democratic Party at that time. So she was kind of an unsung hero of the civil rights movement. Now, Aretha Franklin, of course, is very well known.
Hold on, stop before you get to Aretha. Stop. Let's go back to Fannie. My question about Fannie is, when she's coming up and doing this, do the men accept her as what she's, you know what I'm saying? It's like men say, okay, this is our job to do these things, and you kind of stay back. Do they accept Fannie to doing what she's doing and being so vocal?
When they went to the Democratic National Committee, convention, and they were trying to push for the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party to have seats. That was the party that she helped co-found. To have seats at that convention. The men did ask her when they got to the convention to, you just stay in the background. So you're right, you know, that sexism did play into the fact that men were much more prominent in the civil rights movement than women. But, you know, as you know, Coretta Scott King was Martin's equal. You know, she
really?
played a vital role in the civil rights movement, just like women play a vital role in the church, but were denied leadership positions in the church for many, many years in many denominations. And in some denominations, they might still be denied those positions.
Yeah.
But, you know, women, we women, we toil in the vineyard and do what we have to do, and, you know, hope that we can advance as a people.
Yeah. So now we were going to Aretha. Aretha did some activism type stuff too, you're saying, right?
Yes, she did. I mean, you know, of course, she was best known for her songs. She started out singing gospel in the church. She came from a family of, her father was a pastor, and she had family members who sang gospel. Mm-hmm. So she kind of had that in her blood, but then she found her niche in singing, you know, more secular music, singing R&B. That's when she found her groove, when she was rocking R&B, and she was making lots of money. She was one of the top artists, you know, of the 1960s. But when the civil rights protesters were getting locked up in jail, Aretha stepped up and said, I will post bail. She didn't do it publicly. She did it behind the scenes. I will post bail for the protesters who get locked up. And her father really didn't want her to get involved in that way. But she said, well, I am on top of the musical world because of Black people, because Black people buy my records, my people buy my records. So the money that I make, I owe to them. And so she put up money, and she also held concerts as fundraising events for the civil rights movement.
And then I would suspect if there was a civil rights event, you know, at a church or something like that, her name would be a draw too. If she showed up and said, "Hey, I'm singing a song," that get the crowd out.
Exactly, and I'm sure that she knew that, and she knew she had that clout and had that power, and she chose to use it sometimes to benefit the civil rights movement.
Do you know the answers? If you post bail, do you get your money back?
I think you get it back. I have not actually been through that before, thank God. But I think if you post bail, you get your money back if you show up in court.
Yeah.
If you don't show up in court when your trial comes.
Yeah, I think that's how it goes. Yeah.
It's like it's almost like a loan. You know, you pay the loan back, you lose your house.
Right.
Lose your liberty. You know, if you don't.
Right. So now the next person we're going to talk about is who?
Let's talk about. We actually jumped from slavery to the civil rights era, and we kind of skipped the segregation era.
Yeah, please.
So let's look at Billie Holiday and Lena Horne, who were contemporaries. Yeah. They were born within 2 years of each other. They both came on the scene during the Harlem Renaissance, the tail end of the Harlem Renaissance. Lena Horne was performing at the Cotton Club, and which was a club that was whites only. The only place Blacks were allowed were on stage or on the wait staff or in the kitchen. And Billie Holiday, of course, was in Harlem as well, but she was coming through, those little, smaller clubs, Black-owned clubs. And some of them were, when she first started out, were kind of dive joints. Billie was born in Philly, raised in Baltimore. Lena Horne was raised in Brooklyn, and her mom was an entertainer, and her mother was she was a failed entertainer, really. And she, during the Depression, the family was having a hard time, so she took Lena to the Cotton Club. Lena was a teenager, and Lena started dancing. Her mother was a vocal coach. She started singing, and before she was eventually, one of the headliners, and she was performing out west, and Hollywood came calling. They wanted her to be, and in fact, she was the first African-American woman to sign a major contract, studio contract in Hollywood. So she was not the first Black actress in movies or anything like that, but the first signed to a major Hollywood studio contract, which was what the industry standard at that time. But because she was African-American, her scenes from movies would be like little musical numbers that the editors could cut out of the film when the movie went to Southern theaters because they thought that Southern audiences might be offended by this Black character, particularly one who looked like Lena Horne, who was not, she refused to play mammy roles or maid roles. She always wanted to be dignified, and the NAACP had a part in that. Her father and NAACP, had told the studios that when she signed on, and she really, stuck to her guns in terms of that, and it cost her career as a result. By the 1950s, she was blacklisted during the Red Scare because she was friends with Paul Robeson and she was politically active herself. And so she was not a communist herself, but she would not denounce communism. And so she was, for like 10 years, she was off the air, off the TV, and she was off the air and had to start singing internationally. But she came back. In the 1970s, she was on Sesame Street and had her own Broadway show that she won a Tony Award for. But before that, she was in the civil rights movement. She started going to rallies, and she actually took a year off from her career because she wanted to, like Aretha Franklin, be active in the civil rights movement. So she was one of the only women who spoke at the March on Washington. She said one word into the microphone: freedom. And she also
hold on, let me stop you there. She said one word, freedom, and then walked away.
Freedom. She walked away. Also, backtracking, during World War II, she got fed up with, she was on the USO tour, and she got fed up with having to go in, to come in a different door, the back door, and she got fed up with Black troops either not being able to see her perform or having to sit behind white troops. And so she stopped touring for the USO and sponsored herself. And she went places like the Tuskegee, down to Tuskegee, where the Tuskegee Airmen were training, and performed only for Black troops. And she was like the Black troops pinup during World War II.
Oh yeah.
So it was many a Black soldier was in love with Lena Horne.
Yeah.
But now, she really, she was really fierce, really fierce.
You were saying something about Billie Holiday that you, in her regard.
Billie Holiday was her contemporary, and Billie Holiday arrived in Harlem around the same time that the Great Depression was starting. And my book, Becoming Billie Holiday, traces her first 25 years from her birth in Philadelphia, her childhood in Baltimore, where she really went through a lot. She would have been basically called a foster child nowadays. She practically raised herself on the streets. But she got to Harlem, began singing, and you could say the rest is history. She was singing at a place called Cafe Society, which was a mixed club where Blacks and whites could sit in the audience and they could mix. But she was singing there when she met the songwriter who wrote the song Strange Fruit. He came to that club and played the song for her and the club owner, and they decided that she would record the song. Now, when she recorded the song, when it first came out, I think it was 1941. She was 25 years old, and she was reviewed in Time magazine, and the Time magazine reviewer did not interview her or anything, but he said that she was fat. She didn't care about the way she looked because she wouldn't diet, and I don't know how he knew that. And that she probably wasn't even smart enough to understand the lyrics of the song. And of course, the song was about lynching. Every Black American knew what lynching was in 1940.
Yeah, sure.
Every Black American knew, just like every Black American knows who George Floyd is today.
Sure.
So they said that she probably didn't even know enough about the song to understand. She probably just picked the song because of the tune. But they did concede that the song Strange Fruit would be good propaganda for the NAACP. That was the beginning of the end. That song was her signature song, the peak of her career, but she was a marked woman after that in terms of law enforcement and the FBI. The FBI did have a file on her. They followed her around. She was harassed by law enforcement, and as you know, she was addicted to heroin, and so she was, arrested.
She was, or they just said that she was?
No, she was really addicted to heroin. She was addicted to heroin. I don't know if she was addicted right at the time she did Strange Fruit, but there were operatives who actually provided heroin to people in the jazz world to try to, because jazz is viewed as a powerful medium. And these jazz performers also, they were clean. They didn't look like the stereotypical Black people that white supremacists wanted us, the world to believe that we were. They didn't shuck and jive. They played their music. They were serious about it. You think about Duke Ellington.
Yeah, sure.
And people like Cab Calloway, people like, they wore tuxedos.
Yeah, sure.
That's not the way white people wanted Black people to be perceived.
Oh.
So there was an intentional movement to use a pun, inject heroin into that community into that creative community.
I got you.
And many artists did get caught up.
Yeah.
And Billie
as we come to a close, if you don't mind, the question that comes to my mind, and I hope you don't mind, I ask this one: is there a difference in many of the people that you talked about between the light-skinned, dark-skinned woman? How they view? Could they have a dark-skinned, beautiful Black woman? Like, could Lena Horne been dark-skinned?
You
know what I'm saying in that dynamic?
Yeah, I know. There was a beautiful dark-skinned woman named Nina Mae McKinney who was a movie star, but she did not have the kind of, she didn't have the opportunity that Lena Horne had. So no, Lena Horne, she couldn't have been a dark-skinned woman, not at that time. I don't think she could have. And if you look at the other African American women that followed, who were leading lady types, not that Lena Horne was allowed to be a leading lady anywhere except in a Black film. She was not allowed to be a leading lady in white films. But yeah, the colorism was a factor then, and of course, it persists today.
I guess again, my last question is: could you be a light-skinned revolutionary, or did you have to be dark-skinned? I don't know if that's a good question or not, but
I think that anybody can be a revolutionary, because being a revolutionary is a state of mind, first of all.
Okay.
So I don't think it's determined by physical appearance. But you have to have courage, and you have to, regardless of the color of your skin, you have to have thick skin to be a revolutionary, because you're going to take a lot of hits.
I got you.
So I don't think that's, I don't think being a revolutionary is necessarily
you don't think that's the prerequisite?
If you look at Angela Davis.
Yeah.
Angela Davis is not dark skin.
Yeah, no question. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering, is that what dictated Billie Holiday being a blues singer in her life, because she was dark complected, that gave her that?
Oh no, Billie was not that dark, actually.
Oh, she wasn't. Okay.
No. She wasn't that dark. In fact, she and Lena Horne both had occasions. Lena Horne there was a special makeup that she had to wear because they wanted to make sure she would not be perceived as white. Billie Holiday had to use the same makeup on stage. There were situations where where she was singing with a Black band. Now, when she was performing with white bands, because she fronted white bands and Black bands, but she fronted white bands. There were times when she was told she couldn't appear on stage with the white band. Perform with a Black band in your city, I think it was Detroit. The owner told her that she was going to have to darken up. She was going to have to, put on some grease paint on her skin to darken up so that the audience would not think she was a white singer singing with a Black band.
Oh my God. Everybody, this is what I'm telling you, I bring it to you straight, no chaser. The question came to my mind and I wondered.
Yeah.
I really wondered that.
Yeah, she was called the N-word down south and Yellow Lynch in Detroit.
Yep.
And told to blacken up.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I thank you so very much for coming on Strong Inspirations and telling us about these sisters. I know and understandably, there are many more. There's the Sojourner Truths and the names we know. But you could have gone deeper into it. Everybody, how do they get your book? Let me ask you that. It's on Amazon and stuff.
They can find my books on Amazon. They can find out more about me at cbweatherford.com.
Everybody, y'all check out this sister
cbweatherford.com.
She's sitting there writing now. I know she got something she writing on. This is what she do. She looking like she writing. Everybody, come on, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the notifications button. I don't care, hit a button somewhere on your computer so you can be a part of Strong Inspirations, because we're coming at you strongly, people. This sister right here, Heavy, she came on our channel, so I thank you so very much. I want to tell you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. We sure appreciate you. Everybody, thank you so very much. You can learn more, go to her website, follow them people that she talked about, and many more. Thank you again, and goodbye. We out. Bye-bye.